All right, let's unlock some creative potential today as we take a deep dive into Gay Hendricks' The Genius Zone.
Ah, yes, the Genius Zone. It's a fantastic guidebook to, well, it helps us tap into that space where our passions and talents, really ignite. I'm ready to dive in.
Me too. By the end of this deep dive, you'll understand what the Genius Zone is, but you also have some tools to start accessing your own Genius Zone, like right away.
I love that. No more reading about genius. We're going to help our listeners actually experience it.
Exactly. Hendricks starts by defining the Genius Zone as that sweet spot,
Yeah.
where you're fully engaged in work that you love and that benefits others.
It's that beautiful intersection between personal fulfillment and making a positive impact on the world.
Right. And he makes this distinction between that and like ordinary creativity, which is when you might be using your skills, but it's not truly fulfilling.
Like he gives this example of a chemist. This guy felt so stuck, researching ways to make food more addictive. He was talented, yeah, but definitely not in his genius zone.
No, not at all. And Hendricks himself, he went through some career twists and turns before he found his own genius zone. He started out, he was a newspaper reporter, hated it, tried writing the great American novel, but he hit a wall and then ended up teaching at this school for juvenile delinquents.
Wow, that's quite a detour. What happened at the school? Was that a step further away from his genius zone, or was it a surprising step towards it?
That's where it gets really interesting. He meets this incredible teacher at the school, and she leads this counseling class, and it's focused on deep listening and vulnerability.
Sounds like the kind of environment that could really shake things up and lead to some serious self-discovery.
Oh, absolutely. And it totally changes Hendrix's whole perspective. He realizes that he's been hiding his true self, so he actually decides to enroll in the counseling program.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's torn at this point. He's torn between writing and counseling, and he's not sure which path to pursue.
Ah, yeah, the classic dilemma, following your heart versus, pursuing the quote unquote practical career.
Right. But then here's where the mentor comes in. So he confides in his professor, and his professor gives him this game-changing advice. He's like, why not combine the two,
Yeah.
write about the counseling process.
Genius. Instead of seeing those as separate paths, he found a way to integrate his passions.
Totally. And that's when things really start shifting for him. His writing gets published. He sees his challenging job in this new light, and like his whole life starts transforming, for the better. He loses weight, quits smoking, ends a difficult relationship, and he starts realizing that good fortune seems to follow this expression of his genius.
It's like once he aligned himself with his true purpose, everything else just started falling into place.
Yeah. Hendricks even goes as far as setting daily goals for how much time he wants to spend in the genius zone. He started with just 10% and gradually worked his way up to 90%.
That's incredible. He treated it like a practice, a daily commitment to really cultivate that genius.
Yeah. So how do we start tapping into our genius zone, right?
Yeah.
Well, Hendricks emphasizes the power of commitment.
Yeah, he talks about moving from the bench to the field.
Right.
What does that look like in practice?
Okay, so think of it like this. When you're on the bench, you're full of potential, but you're not in the game. You're not playing. Stepping onto the field means taking action, putting your potential to the test.
Moving from what if to I'm doing it. That takes a lot of courage.
It does. And Hendricks is adamant that all positive change starts with this, like heartfelt commitment. You have to truly decide what you want and commit to making it happen.
But what about, those moments, those inevitable moments when we stumble or get off track? How do we stay the course?
That's where recommitment comes in. We're going to mess up.
Yeah.
But each time that we notice ourselves slipping, we have the power to recommit, to course correct.
Like an airplane's autopilot, making those micro adjustments to stay on course.
He tells this story about a friend who had been sober for 2 years, but then slipped up at a party. Instead of recommitting, he rationalized it. Like he figured, well, he might as well just finish the drink, right?
Oh, the slippery slope of just this once. How'd that turn out for him?
Not well. He
Yep.
fell back into his addiction for another 11 years. It really highlights like how crucial it is to catch those slips early and consciously choose to recommit.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about having that awareness, that willingness to steer ourselves back on track.
And Hendricks, he actually realized that he had an unconscious commitment to these unhealthy relationship patterns. And sometimes, those slips can reveal these deeper patterns that we need to address.
Yeah, those unconscious commitments, those can be really sneaky. How do we even begin to unravel them?
It starts with recognizing the patterns, acknowledging the pain they cause, and
Yeah.
making a conscious choice to change.
Easier said than done, right? These patterns can be so ingrained, like so deep.
Oh, absolutely. And for Hendricks, this involved a lot of work with his breath.
Hmm.
He considered breathwork like a powerful tool for understanding emotions and transforming them.
It's amazing how connected our breath is to our emotional state. When we get stressed, our breathing becomes shallow.
Totally. He worked with this client. This client was struggling with anxiety. And he realized this client was literally holding his breath as if trying to control the anxiety by constricting his breathing.
Yeah, like our body's trying to suppress the emotions, without us even realizing it.
Yeah. So he encouraged his client to actually breathe with the anxiety, to allow himself to feel those sensations without judgment. And guess what? The anxiety started to dissipate.
It seems counterintuitive, but sometimes the most transformative act is simply allowing ourselves to feel.
Hendricks actually found that our breath patterns change depending on the emotion we're experiencing. So by paying attention to our breath, we can gain, valuable insights
Mm-hmm.
into our inner world.
Our breath becomes like an internal barometer, reflecting our emotional state. It's pretty fascinating.
And he gives another example of a client. This client was suffering from chronic headaches, and she was also feeling nauseous. And Hendricks recognized that as a common symptom of fear.
Interesting. So he's connecting those physical symptoms to some underlying emotional states.
Yes. And by exploring that connection, they discovered that her headaches, they were linked to her fear of criticism at work.
Yeah. I can definitely see how stress and anxiety can manifest as physical pain.
By learning to identify and express her fear, she was able to set healthier boundaries. And her headaches, they disappeared.
It highlights that mind-body connection, how addressing the emotional root, it can actually lead to physical healing.
So Hendricks encourages us to become more aware of our breath as a way to understand and process emotions. He believed mastering that practice could be incredibly transformative.
Yeah, that definitely sounds worth exploring. Maybe our listener could even try paying attention to their breath throughout the day and noticing how it changes in different situations.
That's a great suggestion. A simple yet powerful practice. And this awareness of our internal state, leads us to another key concept that Hendricks calls the genius move.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about this genius move.
So it's based on the premise that whenever we feel unhappy, it's because we're trying to control something that is ultimately outside of our control.
Oh, I've definitely fallen into that trap countless times. Give me an example.
Okay, so Hendricks, he used to obsess over his weight, right? Constantly checking the scale and feeling miserable. But then he had this aha moment. He realized that he couldn't actually control the number on the scale at that moment. What he could control was his actions, what he ate, how much he exercised.
So the genius move is about shifting our focus from the uncontrollable to the controllable.
Exactly. We shift from worrying about the outcome to focusing on the actions that we can take. And Hendricks actually had a really powerful experience with this during a particularly lonely Saturday night.
Okay, I can relate to this. I've definitely had my fair share of lonely Saturday nights. Tell me more.
So he was supposed to go out with someone, but she canceled last minute. So he's sitting on his couch feeling absolutely miserable.
We've all been there. Those moments when loneliness just hits you hard.
Right. But then he has this breakthrough. He decides to treat his misery like a psychological experiment.
Instead of wallowing, he gets curious. That's such a brilliant shift in perspective.
He starts by asking himself, what am I trying to control? And he realizes he's trying to control his feelings of loneliness to make them go away.
We so often try to resist those uncomfortable feelings, but the resistance just makes it worse.
It does. So he tries something totally different. He softens his belly muscles, takes a deep breath, and simply allows himself to feel the loneliness without judgment.
And what happens? Does this actually work?
It transforms the experience. As he accepts the feeling, it begins to dissolve. And he describes it as like feeling reborn.
That's incredibly powerful. Acceptance can be so much more powerful than resistance.
And this experience actually changed his whole approach to relationships. Instead of trying to control how others felt or behaved, he focused on creating space for authenticity and open communication.
Shifting from fear-based control to love-based acceptance.
To help us master this genius move, Hendricks breaks it down into 5 steps, 5 clear steps.
Right, let's hear them. How do we actually do the genius move?
Okay, so first, you notice you're unhappy. It could be a feeling, a thought, anything that signals discomfort.
So it all starts with awareness. tuning into our internal state.
Right. Then you ask yourself, what am I trying to control? That's actually outside of my control.
Identifying those areas where we're clinging to things we can't change.
And the third step is to get curious
Hmm.
about what you've been trying to control. Don't judge it, just observe it.
This step, it might take some time for that aha to arrive.
Then, formally acknowledge that whatever you've been trying to control is outside of your control. You can say it out loud or even write it down.
Making that conscious decision to relinquish the grip.
And finally, think of a positive action you can take in that moment, something you do have control over, and do it.
Shifting from worry and frustration to action and empowerment.
To make it more tangible, Hendricks suggests creating two files, a red file for things you can't control, and a green file for things you can influence.
Okay, that's a great way to kind of sort through those thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and identify where we tend to get stuck, what kinds of things go in the red file.
Things like other people's opinions of you, the past, the future, all things beyond our direct control.
Yes, those things we waste so much energy worrying about.
On the green file is for things we can influence, our actions, our choices, our responses.
It's where we tap into our agency, our ability to create change.
Hendrick also points out how this genius move can transform our relationships.
Really? How so?
When we stop trying to control others, we create space for genuine connection. Relationships built on control. They're rooted in fear. Whereas relationships rooted in acceptance, those are rooted in love.
It's about embracing each person's, freedom and autonomy rather than trying to force them to fit into, our mold.
Exactly. And to really solidify this concept, Hendricks encourages us to visualize ourselves in a challenging situation. Notice how we're trying to control it, and then walk through the 5 steps of the genius move.
That's a great way to practice
Yeah.
and prepare for those real-life scenarios.
He even shares this personal story about how he used the genius move to navigate this tricky situation with a family member who had asked him for a loan.
Ooh, family dynamics can be so challenging. It's easy to get caught up in expectations and obligations.
And he was feeling resentful because, this had happened before, and money was never repaid.
I can relate to that. It's a tough spot to be in, wanting to help but feeling taken advantage of.
He realized he couldn't control his family member's financial choices or guarantee that she would repay the loan.
So instead of loaning the money, what did he do?
He decided to offer it as a gift, but with a condition. She couldn't ask him for money again for at least 18 months.
That's an interesting solution. It allows him to be generous while also setting a clear boundary.
And the moment he made that decision, he felt this incredible surge of positive energy, like a weight had been lifted.
It's amazing how freeing it can be to surrender to what we can't control.
And Hendricks emphasizes that, this feeling of liberation, it's available to all of us. We just have to practice the genius move. Shift our focus from control to acceptance, from worry to action.
Reclaiming our power through surrender.
Speaking of reclaiming our power, Hendricks then tackles the biggest obstacle to accessing our genius: negative thinking.
Ah, yes, the dreaded inner critic. How does he suggest we deal with that?
Well, he actually challenges the common advice to combat negative thoughts with, positive thinking.
That's interesting. You'd think positive thinking would be the antidote to negativity.
Right. But he believes that approach can be counterproductive.
Yeah.
It's like telling yourself, don't think about a pink elephant. Guess what? Now you're thinking about a pink elephant.
So if positive thinking isn't the answer, then what is?
This is where it gets paradoxical. The only way to change negative thinking is to acknowledge that we have no control over it.
So we shouldn't try to fight those negative thoughts. Just let them be.
He draws a parallel to the experience of recovering alcoholics in 12-step programs. He shares a story of this man, Jay, who had been struggling with alcohol for years.
Addiction is such a powerful force. It can feel like this constant battle.
At an AA meeting, Jay finally has this breakthrough. He stands up and he says, "My name is Jay, and I'm an alcoholic, and I have no idea how I'm going to stop drinking."
Wow, what a powerful statement of surrender. Admitting his powerlessness over the addiction.
And in that moment of surrender, he feels this profound sense of relief.
It's like the weight of shame and self-judgment lifts, creating space for healing to begin.
Exactly. And that's the key. When we stop fighting those negative thoughts, when we accept that they're just thoughts, they lose their power over us.
Like that saying, what we resist persists.
Hendricks realized that many of his own self-destructive habits, they were a way of running from his fear. of his own creativity.
That's fascinating. Makes you wonder what we might be avoiding by clinging to those unhealthy habits.
Right. For Hendricks, it was the fear of fully embracing his potential.
It's a common fear, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of not being good enough.
He reminds us that, our minds, they only think two kinds of thoughts. Thoughts about things we can control and thoughts about things we can't control. And it's those thoughts about things we can't control that cause us the most suffering.
It's about recognizing which thoughts are helpful and which ones are just draining our energy.
He suggests this simple exercise. Create two files, one labeled things I can control and the other things I cannot control. Spend a few minutes each day sorting your thoughts into these categories.
That's a practical way to become more mindful of where our mental energy is going.
Hendricks also highlights the problem of incompletion as a major source of negative thinking.
Incompletion. What does he mean by that?
He's referring to situations or conversations or tasks that we leave unfinished. Like
Yeah.
he had this conflict with the dean at the university and walked away feeling angry and frustrated.
Yeah. It's so easy to leave those difficult conversations feeling like things were left unsaid.
And that unexpressed energy, it lingers, creating tension. He compares it to like the pressure that builds up inside a geyser before it erupts.
Like a ticking time bomb, those unresolved issues, they can really fester.
He also talks about the importance of completion in relationships. He gives an example from his own life. He was in a relationship where his partner had issues with his frequent traveling for work.
Yeah, travel can definitely put a strain on relationships.
And to kind of appease her, he promised not to engage in any romantic encounters while he was away.
Those promises made in the heat of the moment. How did that one turn out?
Well, he ended up breaking that promise
Hmm.
and then spent weeks agonizing over whether or not to tell her.
Oh, the age-old dilemma. Confess and risk hurting your partner, or keep the secret and live with the guilt.
He was caught in this web of justification, trying to rationalize his behavior. But eventually, the truth came out. He was riding his bike one day and suddenly burst into tears, just overwhelmed with guilt.
It sounds like his body was finally saying, enough, we can't keep this bottled up any longer.
He knew he had to come clean, so he confessed everything.
Yeah.
And his partner was, understandably furious.
I can only imagine.
But amidst the anger, Hendricks felt this unexpected sense of liberation. He was free from the burden of secrecy.
Sometimes honesty, even when it's difficult, can bring a sense of peace.
This experience taught Hendricks some valuable lessons about honesty and taking responsibility for his actions.
Sounds like a turning point in his journey towards living a more authentic life.
Yeah. He realized that hiding the truth had only caused him, more pain. It was better to face the consequences of honesty than to live with the weight of deceit.
Honesty is the foundation of any healthy relationship, with ourselves and with others.
And this commitment to honesty, it was actually central to his relationship with his wife, Katie.
I'm curious to hear about how they met.
So they met at a seminar where he was speaking, and, he was instantly attracted to her. But instead of, playing games, he decided to be completely upfront about what he was looking for in a relationship.
That's refreshing. No beating around the bush.
He told her, I'm only interested in relationships where both people tell the truth, take responsibility, and are passionately committed to their creative development.
Wow. That's a bold statement. What was her reaction?
Well, after a brief pause, she simply said, how about lunch?
I love that. She was clearly intrigued and ready for that authentic connection.
Hendricks had learned from, past relationships that honesty, responsibility, and creative commitment, those were essential for him to thrive.
These themes, they seem to be woven throughout his entire philosophy.
Yeah, he had to first become aware of his own patterns, those tendencies to lie, to blame, to stifle his creativity.
Self-awareness is the first step towards any meaningful change.
He realized he was unconsciously attracting the very things he complained about.
That's such a powerful insight. We often create the reality that we fear the most.
So he made a conscious commitment to change, to surround himself with people who valued and supported his creativity. And that brings us to another important concept. ridding your Rolodex.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this Rolodex ridding.
So it's about consciously choosing to spend less time with people who drain your energy or don't support your creative growth.
It's about creating a supportive ecosystem, a community that nourishes our creativity.
And he clarifies that this doesn't mean like cutting people out of our lives entirely. It's about being mindful of, who we allow into our inner circle and prioritizing our time and energy.
It's about setting healthy boundaries and making choices that align with our values.
And here's the kicker. Hendricks realized that the people in his life who didn't support his creativity, they were actually reflecting his own unconscious commitment to keeping his creative potential repressed.
Wow, that's a profound realization. Sometimes the people who trigger us the most are holding up a mirror to our own hidden beliefs.
Yeah, by taking responsibility for his role in those relationships, he was able to break free from those patterns and start attracting people who genuinely celebrated his creativity.
It's a beautiful reminder that we have the power to choose our relationships and to create a supportive community.
And Hendricks offers this powerful affirmation to help us solidify our commitment to creativity. I commit to expressing my true creativity and enjoying every moment.
I love that. It reminds us that creativity is meant to be joyful, not a source of stress or struggle.
He believes that true fulfillment comes from aligning our passions with our purpose, from finding joy in the creative process itself.
It's about embracing our creativity as a source of energy and vitality, a path to a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
And to help us navigate that path, he introduces this visual metaphor, the three boxes and a spiral.
Intriguing. Tell me about these boxes and how they relate to the spiral.
So the boxes, they represent different levels of engagement with our work in our lives. There's the incompetence box, which includes all those tasks we're not good at, but we insist on doing anyway.
Oh, I know that box well. All
Yeah.
those things I should probably delegate or outsource.
Right. Then there's the competence box, which includes things we're good at, but don't necessarily bring us joy or fulfillment.
It's that space of, good enough, but not necessarily inspiring.
And then there's the excellence box, which can actually be the most dangerous of all.
Wait, why is that? Isn't it a good thing to be excellent at things?
Well, it definitely feels good to be, recognized for our skills. But Hendricks argues that spending too much time in the excellence box can actually drain our creative energy.
Because we're constantly striving for perfection, for
Yeah.
external validation.
Exactly. And the more excellent we become, the more demands are placed upon us.
It's like the more successful we are, the more we get pulled in a million different directions.
Right. So Hendricks offers this alternative to these boxes, the genius spiral.
Okay, how does the genius spiral differ from the boxes?
The spiral represents this continuous upward journey, a path of ongoing growth and exploration. It's about, moving beyond those fixed categories of competence and excellence and embracing a mindset of constant learning and evolution.
That's a beautiful image of progress. Always expanding, always reaching for new heights.
He emphasizes that it's okay to spend some time in each of those boxes.
Yeah.
The key is to keep moving, to avoid getting stuck.
So it's not about eradicating certain tasks or skills entirely. It's about finding that balance, and making sure that most of our time is focused on things that align with our genius.
To track our progress up the spiral, he introduces genius markers.
Genius markers, what are those?
There's specific measurable signs that we're moving towards our goals. They could be accomplishments, milestones, or even shifts in mindset or behavior.
So like little milestones along the way, kind of reminding us that we're on the right track.
Exactly, like I submitted my book proposal, or I finally started that meditation practice I've been putting off.
Those small wins that add up to big changes over time.
And then Hendricks challenges us to think even bigger, to envision our ultimate deathbed markers.
Deathbed markers, that sounds pretty intense.
He's talking about those things we want to have accomplished by the end of our lives.
Yeah.
Those experiences or contributions that would make us feel truly fulfilled.
It's about getting clear on our legacy, on what we want to leave behind.
So Hendricks shares his own deathbed markers, which include thriving in a loving relationship, being at peace with his loved ones, creating work that helps others, deepening his spiritual understanding and savoring every moment.
It's a beautiful and an inspiring vision. It encompasses so many facets of a truly meaningful life.
And he encourages us to create our own list of deathbed markers and let them guide our choices and
Yeah.
inspire our actions.
Using that long-term vision to inform our daily decisions, to make sure we're living in alignment with our deepest values.
Hendricks believes that once we have those deathbed markers in place, our lives become a journey of ascending the genius spiral, moving towards those goals with purpose and intention.
It's a path of continuous growth, expansion, and fulfillment, and it all starts with that commitment, that willingness to step onto the field
Mm.
and embrace our own unique genius.
Yeah, it really is. It's a powerful reminder that we're not just living for today, but creating this legacy. That'll continue on long after we're gone.
And speaking of legacy, Hendricks talks a lot about the importance of nurturing our creativity. He uses the term courtship,
Mm.
like suggesting we need to woo our creativity, almost like a beloved partner.
Make time for those creative pursuits. Creating space for inspiration to strike, and approaching our creative endeavors with a sense of reverence and joy. I like that.
He stresses that the most important space for creativity is actually internal. It's not dependent on having the perfect studio or the ideal circumstances. Yeah, it's about cultivating that inner sanctuary, that place of stillness and receptivity
Mhm.
where creative ideas can flow freely.
He tells this cautionary tale about this therapist that he met. She was waiting for the right time to write her book. She was building her dream house with
Yeah.
this dedicated writing studio, and believed that once everything was in place, the words would just flow effortlessly.
The classic trap, waiting for those perfect conditions. It's so easy to convince ourselves that we need to, have everything figured out before we can pursue our creative dreams.
And guess what? The dream house never materialized,
Yeah.
and the book
Yeah.
remained unwritten.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that creativity doesn't wait for permission. It's a force that needs to be nurtured and expressed, regardless of our circumstances.
He reminds us that some of the most extraordinary works of art were created in the most unlikely of places. He mentions William Faulkner, who wrote In the Back Room of a Post Office,
Yeah.
and Christy Brown, who typed his memoir with only his toes.
Truly inspiring. Creativity can bloom anywhere, even in the face of adversity.
Yeah, and he does acknowledge that having a dedicated physical space that can
Okay.
be helpful, but it's not essential. He encourages us to create an environment that inspires us, whether it's a corner of our bedroom or a fully equipped studio.
Yeah, it's about curating a space that resonates with our creative energy, a place where we feel comfortable and inspired.
He even suggests enlisting help if we're not naturally organized or design savvy.
Yeah, sometimes a fresh perspective can help us to create a space that truly reflects our creative vision.
Now, Hendricks believes that creativity thrives in an atmosphere of appreciation.
Appreciation for our own creativity.
Yeah. He encourages us to be grateful for our creative abilities, to tune into them with sensitivity and awareness.
It's about recognizing and honoring that creative spark, within each of us.
He uses this analogy
Yeah.
of appreciating a work of art. He describes visiting the Met to see a Rembrandt self-portrait, and MoMA to experience Van Gogh's Starry Night.
Two masterpieces. I can only imagine. I can only imagine the emotional impact of standing in their presence.
He talks about paying attention to the details, the brushstrokes, the emotions conveyed through the artist's technique.
Really immersing yourself in the experience, allowing the art to speak to you on a deeper level.
He suggests that we approach our own creativity with that same level of attention and appreciation. Notice the subtleties of our creative process, celebrate our unique style, and be grateful for the ability to create.
Cultivating a sense of wonder and awe, for our own creative expression.
And speaking of wonder, Hendricks, he believes that one of the best ways to tap into our creativity is to cultivate our sense of wonder.
That childlike curiosity and fascination with the world.
Exactly. He describes wonder as the mind at play, roaming freely without judgment, exploring new possibilities. He encourages us to ask, Wonder questions, questions that spark our curiosity
Yeah.
and ignite our passion for learning.
Approaching life with a beginner's mind, open to new possibilities, as if we're seeing everything for the first time.
So one example he gives is, what do I most passionately want to learn?
That's a great question. It forces us to confront our deepest desires, those areas of knowledge that truly excite us.
And he emphasizes that, these wonder questions, they don't have right or wrong answers. They're meant to open us up to new possibilities and,
Yeah.
and inspire exploration.
Yeah, it's about the journey of learning and growing, not about reaching a specific destination.
Right. He encourages us to come up with our own wonder questions, questions that are relevant to our lives and our aspirations.
Tapping into our unique curiosities, those questions that keep us up at night, the things we're most eager to understand.
Hendricks also, he dives into the importance of creating relationships
Yeah.
that support our creativity.
Yeah. We've talked about the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who uplift and inspire us, but how do we actually go about, building those kinds of relationships?
He suggests taking a close look at our
Hmm.
current relationships
Mm.
and asking ourselves, does this person value and support my creativity?
Mm. It's about being mindful of the energy that we allow into our lives,
Yeah.
making sure that the people we spend time with are nourishing our creative spirit.
He even suggests ridding our Rolodex, consciously choosing to spend less time with people who don't align with our creative values.
That can be a tough decision,
Yeah.
especially if those people are close to us.
He acknowledges it's not always easy, but sometimes setting boundaries is necessary to
Yeah.
to protect our creative energy. And Henry Hendricks makes this fascinating observation. He realized that the people in his life who didn't support his creativity, they were actually mirroring his own unconscious beliefs about his creative potential.
Wow, that's profound. It suggests that we might be unconsciously attracting the very people who reinforce our fears.
And by taking responsibility for his role in creating those dynamics, he was able to break free and start attracting people who genuinely celebrated his creativity.
It's a powerful reminder that we have more control over our relationships than we might realize. We can choose to surround ourselves with people who inspire, and empower us.
Hendricks offers this powerful affirmation to help us solidify our commitment to creativity. I commit to expressing my true creativity and enjoying every moment.
Oh, I love that. It's a beautiful reminder that creativity isn't meant to be a struggle. It's meant to be joyful and fulfilling.
He challenges the myth that creative people, they need to suffer, that we need to be tortured souls to produce great art.
It's okay to be happy and creative. In fact, I think joy is an essential ingredient in any truly meaningful creative work.
Hendricks believes that true fulfillment, it comes from aligning our passion with our purpose and finding joy in the creative process itself.
It's about embracing our creativity as a source of energy and vitality, a path to a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
And to help us, visualize this path, he introduces this metaphor of the three boxes and a spiral.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into this metaphor. Tell me about these boxes and how they connect to the spiral.
So he starts by describing these three boxes that many of us get stuck in. The first is the incompetence box, which includes all those tasks that we're not good at, but we insist on doing anyway.
Yeah, I think we all have our own personal incompetence box filled with things we'd rather avoid if we could.
Then there's the competence box, which includes things we're good at,
Yeah.
but don't necessarily bring us joy.
Right. Those tasks we can do efficiently, but that don't light us up inside.
Uh-huh. And then there's the excellence box. This one can be the most tempting to stay in,
Yeah.
but Hendricks argues it can be the most dangerous.
Dangerous, but isn't it a good thing to be excellent at something?
Well, it feels good to be recognized, for our skills, but spending too much time in the excellence box, it can It can actually drain our creative energy.
Hmm. Because we're constantly striving for perfection, for external validation instead of tapping into that inner wellspring of creative joy.
Exactly. And the more excellent we become, the more demands are placed upon us.
It's like a never-ending cycle of achievement and expectation.
So as an alternative to these boxes, Hendricks introduces the genius spiral.
Okay. How does the spiral differ from the boxes?
The spiral, it represents this continuous upward journey
Hmm.
of growth and exploration.
Yeah.
It's about moving beyond those fixed categories of competence and excellence, and embracing a mindset of constant learning and evolution.
Hmm. That's a beautiful image of constant expansion. Always reaching for new heights.
He emphasizes that it's okay to spend time in each of the boxes. The key is to keep moving, to avoid getting stuck.
So it's not about eradicating certain tasks or skills. It's about finding that balance and making sure our energy is primarily focused on activities that align with our genius.
To help us, track our progress up the spiral, Hendricks introduces this concept of genius markers.
Genius markers. What are those
Yeah.
exactly?
So there's specific, measurable signs that we're moving towards our goals.
Yeah.
They can be accomplishments, milestones, or even shifts in mindset.
Oh, like little guideposts along the way, kind of reminding us that we're headed in the right direction.
Exactly. Like I finally finished that painting, or I had a breakthrough conversation with my partner.
Those little wins that help us stay motivated and on track.
And then Hendricks encourages us to think even bigger,
Yeah.
to envision our ultimate deathbed markers.
Deathbed markers. That sounds a little morbid. What does he mean by that?
He's talking about those things we want to have accomplished by the end of our lives, the experiences or contributions that would make us feel truly fulfilled.
Right. It's about identifying our core values, what we want our legacy to be.
Yeah, he shares his own deathbed markers, which include having a thriving, loving relationship, being at peace with his loved ones, creating work that helps others, deepening his spiritual understanding, and savoring every moment of his life.
That's a beautiful and inspiring vision. It encompasses so many aspects of a truly meaningful life.
And he encourages us to create our own list of deathbed markers and
Yeah.
use them as a guiding force in our lives.
Right. Using that long term vision to inform our daily choices, making sure we're living in alignment with our deepest values.
Hendricks believes that once we have those deathbed markers in place, our lives become a journey of ascending that genius spiral, moving towards those goals with intention and purpose.
It's a path of continuous growth, expansion, and fulfillment.
And now to support us on that journey, Hendricks introduces the concept of wooing our creativity. He suggests we need to treat our creativity like a beloved partner,
Yeah.
to nurture it and cherish it.
Oh, I love that. I love that analogy. It makes creativity sound so much more appealing than just another task on our to-do list.
Right. He emphasizes that creativity thrives in an atmosphere of appreciation.
Yeah.
He encourages us to appreciate our own creativity, to be grateful for it, and to tune into it with sensitivity.
Right. It's about cultivating a loving and respectful relationship with our creative selves.
He uses the example of appreciating a work of art. He talks about going to a museum, and really taking the time to observe the details, the brushstrokes, the way the artist used color and light.
It's about going beyond just glancing at the surface and really immersing yourself in the experience.
Uh-huh. And he suggests we apply that same level of attention to our own creative process. Notice the nuances of how we create what inspires us, what brings us joy.
Yeah. It's about slowing down and savoring those moments of creative flow.
And speaking of savoring, Hendricks also talks about the importance of cultivating our sense of wonder.
That childlike sense of awe and curiosity.
Exactly. He describes wonder as the mind at play, roaming freely without judgment. He encourages us to ask wonder questions, questions that spark our curiosity and ignite our passion
Yeah.
for learning.
Approaching life with a beginner's mind,
Yeah.
open to new possibilities,
Mhm.
as if we're seeing everything for the first time.
So he offers an example. What do I most passionately want to learn?
That's a great question. It invites us to explore our deepest desires, those areas of knowledge that truly set our souls on fire.
And he emphasizes that wonder questions, they don't have right or wrong answers.
Yeah.
They're meant to inspire exploration and discovery.
Right. It's not about reaching a destination. It's about the journey of learning and growing.
Yeah, he encourages us to come up with our own wonder questions.
Mhm.
Questions that are relevant to our own lives and aspirations.
Right. Those burning questions that keep us up at night. The things we're most eager to understand.
And as we cultivate this sense of wonder, Hendricks believes it will naturally lead us to our genius zone, to that
Mm.
place where our passion and purpose align.
Yeah, it does. It feels like going back, to that innate sense of curiosity and joy that we often lose touch with
Yeah,
as we get older.
yeah. And Hendricks believes that by tapping into that sense of wonder, we can unlock a whole new level of creative potential.
Mm.
He also emphasizes the importance of, surrounding ourselves with people who support our creative journey.
Hmm. We've talked about, ridding our Rolodex, but what about like actively cultivating relationships with people who inspire us?
Yeah. He suggests seeking out communities or groups of, like-minded individuals, people who share our passions and who can offer, encouragement and support.
Right. It's about creating a network of creative collaborators and cheerleaders, people who believe in our vision and who can help us bring it to life.
And Hendricks believes that one of the most powerful things we can do to support our creativity is to embrace the practice of completion.
Completion. You mean finishing what we start.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it goes deeper than that. He's talking about addressing any lingering incompletions
Mhm.
in our lives.
Yeah.
Things that are draining our energy or holding us back.
Can you give me an example? Like what kind of things would fall under this category?
It could be anything really, from unfinished projects to unresolved conflicts to unspoken apologies. Anything that's creating a sense of unease or tension.
Right, right. Those loose ends that we tend to push aside, but that continue to nag at us in the back of our minds.
Exactly. And Hendricks believes that these incompletions can clutter our mental and emotional space,
Yeah.
making it difficult for creativity to flow freely.
Yeah. It's like trying to write a novel in a room full of boxes and clutter. You need to clear the space to create a clean slate.
Right. So he encourages us to create a completions checklist, a list of,
Yeah.
of all those things we need to address.
That sounds like a powerful tool for self-reflection.
Yeah.
Taking inventory of those areas where we might be holding ourselves back.
Right. And he emphasizes that this is an ongoing practice. It's not about achieving some perfect state of completion. It's about developing an awareness of those areas that need attention and taking steps to address them.
So it's a way of life, a commitment to clearing those mental and emotional cobwebs so that our creative energy can flow freely.
And as we clear those incompletions, Hendricks believes we naturally create more space for joy and fulfillment in our lives.
It's like removing those obstacles that are blocking our path to the genius zone.
So there you have it. We've explored the key concepts of living in the genius zone. the power of commitment, the transformative practice of the genius move, the importance of ending negative thinking, the art of wooing our creativity, the liberating perspective of the genius spiral, and the clarifying practice of completion.
What a rich and insightful exploration.
Yeah.
Hendricks has given us so much to ponder and so many practical tools to implement.
Absolutely. If you're feeling inspired to dive deeper into these ideas, we highly recommend checking out the Genius Zone. It's full of exercises and stories that will help you unleash your own unique genius.
And as you embark on this journey, remember to ask yourself, what are my deathbed markers? What steps can I take today to create a life that feels truly fulfilling?
The Genius Zone is waiting for you. All you have to do is choose to step into it.
So go forth and create. The world needs your unique gifts.
Until next time, happy diving.